And we were just talking about Jack White, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that song he had.
He might be the most like inventive guitar player out right now. We had Les Paul, we had Eddie, we had all these guys, and like right now he's the only guy I know that's putting stuff out that I just don't understand how it works, and he's got these wild inventions he's coming out with.
Yeah.
Did you see that? We're gonna talk about some NAMM stuff later, but did you see that blue limited edition Telecaster he's got that's coming out?
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's like the black one, but it's blue with all the white appointments.
I like the blue.
Oh my god,
it looks sharp. I like it better than the black one for sure.
Yeah, I do too. I don't know. I want to get my hands on those Telecasters because I think it would be really unique.
It would be fun. I don't know if it'd be.
I don't know if it's $3,000 cool. But I think if there's any like oddball Telecaster that's $3,000 cool, to me,
yeah,
would be something like that. And I love that his name isn't great big. I mean, obviously you know whose it is.
I was about to say, there's not really any questions.
There's no question it, but man, so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put out that pedal with Eventide at the NAMM show, and like it's wild. Everything he puts out, it's just crazy.
You know what throws me off is that he's not a big like phone social media person, you know what I mean, but like he's been to NAMM,
yeah,
you know what I mean, and he's doing other stuff, and I'm like, I feel like it's almost a little off brand for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but he's all about people, and he's all about like playing live and doing that type of stuff.
He's big on like bringing history back too, like
history
blues
and innovation at the same time.
He is,
and
but I think it's just weird to me.
I think he was excited to show all this new stuff off.
And I think there comes a point where like if he's gonna release it, he has to show it. So like it was probably not really an option.
And who else can do it?
No, it has to be him.
You know, I mean nobody. I mean you can get some random presenter to do it, but it's gonna suck.
Yeah, it's not gonna be as cool.
It's not gonna be Jack White, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get into more of that stuff later.
Hey guys, before we start this episode, we're starting off the new year right. We've got some merch. There's links down below. You guys can check it out. Or if you don't want to, don't check it out. Yeah, do whatever you want. All right, let's get back to that episode. See ya.
Hey guys, welcome to Tone Bros. My name's Casey.
And I'm Colin. We're going to get started with our current topic of the day, which kind of has to go into Fender's new Standard Series. But is it really a Standard Series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's the Mexican Standard Series, only made in Indonesia. So it's the Indonesian Standard Series.
It's not the Fender American Standard.
Correct.
It's the Fender Standard.
Yes.
So, okay. All right, Casey, tell us about it.
Yeah, so they come out with it, reintroduced it, I guess, is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They come out with a Telecaster. They've got a Stratocaster. They've got a Jazz bass and then a P bass also.
HSS Strat, too.
Oh, yeah, there's a HSS Strat and 3 single coil Strats. They have 4 finishes, I think, on the Strats. 2 of them's rosewood boards and 2 of them's maple boards. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty cool. They're $5.99. From what I understand, so this is from Indonesia. One of the largest manufacturers in Indonesia is Cort. Is the Cort manufacturer, which is where
Paul Reed Smith
PRS SEs are made.
Yep.
So as much as Fender wants to say we're the Stratocaster and we're the Telecaster of the world, which they are. I mean, they're the only ones that own that name,
they
right?
Are.
But I think they've realized that the SE PRS stuff is really pushed up hard against them.
Yeah, here's the... I agree with that, because the Silver Sky is selling like hotcakes. The SE version. There's something I think Fender's going to miss. All right?
Okay.
And I have real concerns about this. So Paul Reed Smith makes a point. They make them in Indonesia, but then they open each individual case and guitar when they ship to America, and they get them like they kind of fix the intonation and all that, and then they'll actually ship them to the manufacturer. I'm curious if Fender's doing something like that, because if not, I don't think the quality control is going to be there as much.
Well, I wonder about that. But also, if you've got a place like Sweetwater that you're shipping it to, Sweetwater's got their, 100-point inspection.
Right. And I'm not talking about Sweetwater. I'm talking about
Guitar Center.
Okay. Well, you said the name.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I kind of feel that way about Guitar Center with just about all things. You know,
you don't go there for the fine-tuned details.
No, it's the big box store. If you want something that's really dialed in, you go to a reputable shop. You go to Sweetwater. You go to Wildwood, you go to Grun's, you go to places like that you know that are going to set things up. I think Chicago Music Exchange has a really good program like that. You know, Palin Music here, like in Missouri, is pretty popular. They set up everything really well.
Fantastic.
So I think if you're going somewhere like that, you don't have to worry about it quite as much. But yeah, if you're ordering it big box, that could be. I had not thought about that, but that could be a thing.
That's my only concern. I think it's a cool thing that they're going Indonesian because they've been in Mexico for a long time. They're seeing the quality that PRS is pumping out, and they're like, we want some of that too. Can I express a little detail that bothers me with an HSS Strat?
Yeah.
For this price point, the bridge pickup always bothers me because it's always stark white with the pick guard, and I don't like the looks of it ever.
Yeah.
But then you go to like an American Professional, and usually, or Professional 2, whatever it is now, and usually it's like a black pickup, or maybe there's some different like casing around the bridge pickup. I don't remember.
Yeah,
But something looks weird on the cheaper HSS Strats.
They always look a little bit cheap. If they would even go zebra, I think they would look better.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I think even just zebra or just black, either one would look better.
And I don't know what it is. It's something about the white on white.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look...
It's not as cool.
Yeah.
So they're doing this. It makes me wonder if they're going to go back to a standard American line in the future. If this does well.
Well, I'm talking a lot. Sorry.
It's okay.
It just happens. But I'm tired of Player 2, American Professional 2, Vintage 2. I do want the standard to come back.
It would be nice. Even, it's kind of like Gibson does. They've got the American standard. Everything Gibson does is American. But they've got the standard Les Paul. And they just update it every once in a while. And they're like, hey, we done a refresh. Right. This is our new update for the, 2026 Les Paul or whatever it is. So I hope they kind of go back to that. I think that could be really cool. It makes me wonder too about like the road worn stuff that's made in Mexico now. The Brad Paisley stuff, all the Jason Isbell stuff. It's all made in Mexico right now. Is that stuff going to get moved eventually to Indonesia? I don't know. That stuff, a lot of it's nitro. I'm not even sure if they can shoot nitro in Indonesia. There's different regulations at every place, but that's kind of my thoughts on it. I think it's great. I think it's exciting that they're bringing it back. I like the idea. The price point's good, $599.
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure it's going to be great.
It's just a hair under those SEs.
I know. They did know their market.
They hit it right on the head.
I don't know if you also noticed, did you notice the wood that they're using for the body? For a lot of Strats.
I read it. Was it poplar?
Yeah. You know who started that? PRS?
Yeah. I don't know that they started it.
Okay. Well, they made it popular.
They made it popular.
Oh my gosh.
You just make a joke, Bobby.
Yes, I did.
Good one.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to my main topic.
Okay.
So we were just talking about it. We haven't really touched on it yet, and it's happened a little bit ago. But NAMM happened, and I wanted to talk to you and ask you, is NAMM back? It kind of felt like this year was the first year that some of these big companies took it serious, held their releases back, and then released it at NAMM. I didn't feel like smaller companies took it as serious this year because I think they can kind of release stuff randomly, like the small boutique manufacturers, like even JHS and Wampler and those guys. They weren't really releasing something new at NAMM. Wampler had recently released the Rewired and all that stuff, and he was showing that. However, these big guys like Gibson and like Fender and like Martin and like Marshall, they had some big releases that nobody knew was kind of coming until NAMM. And they all, not all of them, but most of them were at the NAMM show. Had larger booths than what they've had in the last few years. I think it's maybe made a shift slightly, and I'll talk to you about what I think the shift is after I hear your opinion. But is NAMM back?
So last year we had talked about how we feel like NAMM is done.
Yeah.
And this year I feel like it has grown. I wouldn't say it's back. It's grown because we think about once COVID hit, everything went virtual, and everyone was not really going in person for the next 2 years. That's just what it was. Last year was just kind of a miss. I think also you got to look at the R&D teams were probably trying to make headway after they were trying to make new things right after COVID, but they didn't really have a whole lot of inventive ideas, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because they didn't have time
Or
really to do it.
supplies.
Or supplies. So they were kind of like hands were tied, I feel like now, since product is more readily available, people are up and running, and also people are more in person. I think, of course, NAMM is coming back. It's growing to where it was. I'm not saying it was, or it's at where it was in the past.
Okay. So my thoughts on it too is I do think it's on its way back, but I think it's shifting slightly. It's not like it used to be, where at the NAMM show they used to just deal with dealers and basically get all their orders in at one time, or even just like show the new things and then the orders will trickle in by phone. I think now it's kind of changing to almost like an exhibit for all these people to shoot videos of and have the new videos come out and build all this excitement about a new product that's coming out, because they could just release it online.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no reason they could send out an email to all the email streams and stuff. But I think this year kind of showed that there is some excitement still about NAMM. People are excited to see the new things. They want to watch videos, or they want to go there in person and check it out. I think it kind of showed that maybe they don't need a giant place where a bunch of dealers can come in and make orders, because Sweetwater's going to make their order, and how many mom and pop shops, unfortunately, how many mom and pop shops are out there really looking to make orders? It's unfortunate, but very few of them are going to NAMM to make those orders.
Right.
If they're a mom and pop shop, they're already on a pretty tight budget. They're probably just going to wait for the NAMM stuff to end, give them a call, or get online and make their orders. So I think it's moved almost to like, let me show you this new product. It's awesome. We'll shoot some videos. We'll have a cool display to show it off. And it's kind of shrunk away from the dealers as much as it has just built up to build excitement.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited to see what happens next year. I think so they're not doing a summer NAMM from what I understand. They're just doing this winter NAMM this year. No summer NAMM.
Okay.
And if they made it just an annual thing every January, it could build a lot of excitement for everybody, knowing that's going to come around every January. And I could see next year, with how it seemed to go over for people, it being even bigger.
Yeah, I think there's something I noticed too is you didn't see a whole lot of like pedal companies just in general.
No.
It's much more amps and guitars.
Yes.
Which I think is probably like a business, kind of standpoint and a business decision, because you think about those small companies, there's not really necessarily a point for them to go there, and then all the big names like Marshall and stuff like that, they're going to get the big headlines, right?
Yes.
So their products will kind of get swallowed up in the idea of NAMM. So it probably does make more sense for them to do their releases kind of randomly throughout the year. But I do think that like those big companies, Marshall, Vox, they've got that purple, amp now. Which hopefully they release it.
They also had a 4-watt.
No, it's on Guitar Center's website already.
The AC4 hand-wired. So that hand-wired series it released last year that never released, don't get me started on that, is gone. But they've got the 4-watt version with 112.
Yeah.
That's supposedly out there.
Yeah, I don't know. But I do think NAMM is, it's on the up and up. It's definitely more guitar and amp related, which, you think about it, especially if you're a newer company, you want your name out there. It's a good thing to do if you're a huge company. But if you're in that mid-tier, you probably get swallowed up.
I think they got to do what boutique, whatever they call that. What's that company? That boutique, blah, blah, blah. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. But it's where like Friedman and Synergy and like all those companies are like mashed together in the same kind of overarching company.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wampler's inside that, and maybe Morgan or Dr. Z or somebody like that. But anyway, they're all under that kind of umbrella. I think they would have to do that, the mid-tier. Maybe that JHS gets together with Mythos and gets together with whatever random people. Mm-hmm. And they would kind of have to show that way. We're not saying there wasn't smaller pedal companies there.
No, there's definitely there was definitely pedals released. Marshall has pedals now. Well, more pedals, I should say.
Yeah.
They always had pedals. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just NAMM is growing to where it was, still not full force, and I think you're right. I think it's shifted a little bit. But I think for the most part, at least people are getting together and people are talking about gear, so that makes me happy.
I'm excited. I think it's a good thing. I'm always excited for there to be like big releases like that. Looking forward to something is always a big thing, the anticipation. But I guess we'll see what happens in the next following years.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and move to your gas or pass?
Okay, so moving to gas or pass. Mine is talking about an amp that we really have not played. So gas or pass, it's all about, are we interested in it? Are we not interested in it? I think I would like to try a Hiwatt.
Okay.
You can find Hiwatts on Reverb, like a custom 50, okay, for about $3,000. I know that's a big price point, but you think it live at Leeds, you think of Gilmore and his tone. I mean, there's a reason we talk about Vox, Fender, and Marshall religiously. I think as far as classic companies, you can make a case for Orange, Supro, and Hiwatt.
Oh,
Wait,
for sure.
my math is not right.
Yeah, it's okay. For sure, Hiwatt is one of those classic
You know what I mean?
companies.
So I feel like that's something that we should at least explore, and I'm interested in it. And this is a huge, like, I don't know, a staple in the, guitar community and what it's done, history, I guess.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in Hiwatt. My problem is I've got a 50-watt Marshall here that is great, and I love it, but I'm not able to gig it really unless I take an attenuator and deal with that whole thing. And that's a whole nother subject because then your speakers aren't moving as much and it changes it.
Right.
And with that, with a 50-watt Hiwatt, we all know that Hiwatts are known for high headroom.
Oh, yeah.
To get it to where I want to get it, I'm going to have to crank it, and it's going to be real loud. So, am I interested in the 50-watt for $3K?
No.
No.
Okay.
No. Am I interested in smaller versions of this Hiwatt? Absolutely.
Okay. So, getting off of this subject just a little bit, okay? So, it's a pass for you. I get that. Do you feel like pedal companies, because they are so religious on a Blackface sound, a Marshall sound, and a Vox AC30 sound, do you think they're missing a mark by not putting like a Hiwatt sound on there?
I think there's multiple companies. Well, I mean, there is Hiwatt pedals out there that are supposed to sound like the preamp of a Hiwatt or the amp. However, yeah, if you look at Pod Express, IR2, you look at a lot of these companies are making what's the Strymon?
Iridium?
The Iridium from Strymon. None of them have Hiwatt stuff in there. I think they're missing it a little bit, but I think it's mainly because the market. I don't think a lot of guitar players are, as classic as they are, I don't think a lot of guitar players are searching for Hiwatt because they don't understand the Hiwatt thing.
And that's kind of the reason why I brought it up. I feel like Hiwatt, just in general as a company, has kind of missed the mark on saying, hey, we are this classic company. Like, try your stuff, it's unique, it's a different sound. We should be included in that.
I would say that until the last year or two. And they started putting out some of those lower wattage amps that are supposed to be very classic, DR kind of style amps, but in smaller wattages. I think they're trying to get that back out there, but they have been missing it for a long time.
Yeah, I think they have an opportunity. You know what I mean?
So for me, that amp, the 50-watt,
it's a pass.
It's a pass.
Okay.
But I like the idea of a smaller version of it. What about you?
No, I agree. I got a Bassman right now, a Bassman head, and it sounds like a super bass Marshall. So I mean, I love that thing, and I think I've showed it on the channel before. But anyways, I don't need the wattage. I think you're right. If they came out with like a 20-watt, kind of like the Marshall Studio Series, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, and they've got those smaller versions out there. We need to check some of that stuff out.
Yeah.
So I haven't really dug into it real deep.
Uh-huh.
But that's something we definitely need to check out.
So what about Hiwatt in general?
Oh, very interested.
Yeah.
It's a complete gas, yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move to my gas or pass.
All right.
So my gas or pass this week is the new MXR Rockman X100. So this is the new pedal that I didn't realize MXR, Jim Dunlop, however you want to put it, the same company, right? Same family, has owned Rockman for 20 years, 30 years, something like that. So they put out this pedal. It's supposed to be very similar to the old Rockman preamps. It's got 4 channels on it. It's got a chorus that you can turn on or off. and then it's got 2 sliders, which one is volume and then one is input gain. So basically gain and volume, right?
Right.
It's got like a little tap tempo switch you could plug into it if you wanted to, and you can flip through all 4 channels. There's a switch on the inside that switches it from mono to stereo outputs with a TRS cable.
Right.
And you're talking $229 for this pedal.
Right.
If you want to talk about classic 80s tunes,
Yeah.
I mean, holy smoke.
Just the chorus alone is pretty cool.
It's amazing. And I don't care if you're talking like Def Leppard. So Tom Schultz is the guy that invented the Rockman.
Right.
He's a guitar player for Boston.
Yep.
You know, he was like an MIT graduate or something like that. Like, he's super smart.
Uh-huh.
And he come out with this thing, and he used it a bunch. But there's tons of people that have used it. Think about anybody out there. I know that even Alice in Chains, one of their amps they'd like to stack in there was a Rockman. Like, think about that.
That is weird.
It's odd. He would have, like, you know, a modified Marshall, and he'd have like a Bogner and stuff, a modified Bogner amp, and then he would have a Rockman in there too.
Yeah.
You know, Jerry Cantrell. So even heavy stuff like that's got in there to kind of work with the EQ. And then, of course, like Steve Lukather and all those guys,
Sure, yeah.
you know, were using it at one point. Yeah, I don't think it has any cabinet simulation, nothing like that.
No.
So you're going to have to run it into either an amp effects loop or something that's got cabinet emulation. What's your thoughts on this thing?
So, for me personally, I'm out completely. 80s, you know, the chorus is cool, but other than that, that mid-range, like, nasty, like, it sounds like your wah is, like, half-cocked. Like, it's just not for me. It is a cool sound. It's definitely unique. Do I think it's ever coming back?
It is back.
I mean,
I completely...
like in modern music.
No, I completely disagree. I think you're completely wrong.
I think it's done. But
Oh.
I think it's a cool idea. You know where I think they really missed the mark?
Oh, go ahead. Please explain, because I'm going to disagree with all this when you're done.
Besides the price point, it's a little high. I think right at $200 would make sense.
Oh, it's $229.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
just saying.
Right at $200.
So I would pay $230 if there was echo on it, but there's not.
There used to be echo on the
There
old one.
used to be, and they missed the mark.
I do wish it had delay on it.
That's what I'm saying.
I do wish it had delay. That is the one thing that I do think they missed the mark on. I will agree with you.
Okay.
It makes me wonder if they're going to come out with if it does well, a larger version where you could turn the echo on and off with a second foot switch.
Yeah.
I think that would be genius.
That you know what? That would be worth the $230.
But that'll be $300.
Well, regardless, I'm not buying it.
Okay.
This is not for me. This is for you. You're the 80s guy.
Well, I like 80s stuff, but I think you're wrong about 80s being out and being done. The
It's
reason
done.
why is John Mayer.
Okay, chorus, and he does what? Dad rock? It's not dad rock. It's something else.
Sob rock.
Sob rock. Dad rock.
Dad rock is what we do.
Oh, okay.
I think that John Mayer has, of course, there's all the people that's like reminiscing about the old days of the 80s, which people love to do. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoy that too to some degree. But I think John Mayer has brought these 80s tones with chorus and super clean, spanky sounds, playing Jacksons occasionally, playing a Silver Sky. I think he has brought that out to a new audience that's like, holy cow, this sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this Rockman is going to kill for those people.
I think this is great for a studio musician that just wants a quick sound in a box. But this to me feels like a Ghostbusters sequel. No one's really asking for it. No one's really wanting to see Bill Murray at his age in a Ghostbusters suit.
No, you're wrong.
Kids love us.
And, you know, it's a cash grab. That's what it feels like.
No, it doesn't. I really like it. And I like the idea of throwing in my board for that, like, half a dozen songs that are on my set. This thing would sound like awesome. Real spanky sounding. Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of it. And the thought of going into... I was thinking about some of these guys that are using these different pedals, like amp simulation pedals. If you've got that on your board and you've got like a Seymour Duncan Power Stage next to it that's stereo, they released that stereo one not long ago, and you've got like a Marshall, you know, preamp style thing, or like one of those Friedmans. I know that Tone King at NAMM released the Imperial.
Yeah, that's a cool thing.
And it's got reverb and tremolo on it. It's got attenuation for each channel. Dude, if you had that and like a Marshall and then had like that Imperial, you could comp so many sounds.
Yeah, because I want to live my whole life playing pedals.
Are you trying to hurt my feelings?
Ouch. You know what? I get it. But also, I understand for like, to really try to get some of these sounds. Man, there's nothing like it. It's when you hear it and turn it on, you're immediately like, dude, that's Def Leppard. That's Boston.
You know what this is?
What?
This is your Ninja Turtles. You are living in the past. And you are like, oh, this takes me back. But guess what? No one cares. Not one person cares.
Guys,
Besides the studio musician. I mean,
he's completely wrong. Let's prove him wrong. Go out there and go buy one because they're awesome. And I think in a year, 2 years down the road, we're going to see a bigger one come out with Echo on it. And I think he's going to have to be like, man, I'm really surprised how many people are really using those little Rockman pedals.
all right, here's the thing. Please prove me wrong. Because I think this is craptastic.
All right, let's move on.
All right.
Let's go ahead and move to your main topic. I'm sick of talking to you about this because you're just wrong.
I'm hurting your feelings. That's all it comes down
Yeah,
to.
I'm going to go cry in the corner here in a second, guys.
All right. So my main topic today, guys, I want to end this on a note and a topic that kind of, I don't know, it feels like closing a chapter when you see this documentary. It's Norman's Rare Guitars.
Yeah, on Netflix.
On Netflix, okay. It came out here early this year, I think at the beginning of the year. So it tells you his whole story about how he got the business, how he started the business, kind of even goes into some health struggles, even talks about who might take it over. There's some interesting stuff. Mark Agnesi. I mean, there's a slew of famous people talking about Norman's Rare Guitars. What was your take on it? What do you remember about it?
So I watched the documentary. I had not got to watch it until last night.
Oh, okay.
I watched it last night, so it's very fresh for me.
Okay.
There is tons of people that's on the documentary talking about it. Slash is on there. I mean, everybody you can think of is pictured in it for sure.
Sambora.
With Norm. But then there's big heavy hitters talking about it.
Right.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really interesting. Kiefer Sutherland is the guy that produced it, and he's in it.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome to hear Norm's story because I didn't know it. I actually have not been to Norm's yet. It seems wrong.
I know.
But next time I go to the West Coast, I'm definitely going to have to check it out.
Yeah.
Because I just have not done it yet. Not pulled the trigger on that. That's one of those, there's so many legendary spots you want to go to as a guitar player and a gearhead. You can't help.
I feel like there's 4 in the U.S. There's Norm's, Grun's, Wildwood, and Chicago Music Exchange.
Yeah, you could make like Manny's up in New York. That's a big one.
Okay.
Right? Like there's been multiple places.
I feel like those are the heavy hitters though.
Yeah, those are big hitters for sure. There's more that we're definitely forgetting. But
probably.
Anyway.
Don't take offense to us.
So I thought it was really awesome to hear Norm's story about how he got started. It made me sad to hear all the guitar prices that he used to buy them for. So sad. I found it interesting about like the few famous players that kind of put him on the map. He started to bring George Harrison into his house.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, he's telling his wife, he's like, hey, honey, I'm about to bring George Harrison in, and she's like in a bathrobe, and she's like, oh, okay.
And then he walks
in, and she's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And George bought 2 like bursts that day.
Mm.
So it was really interesting to see his story. I thought it was cool. I think it shows his life in a beautiful way.
Right. It almost felt like it was a celebration of life.
Yeah, it kind of felt like he's dead. It's so sad to say.
I'm laughing. It's not funny.
Yeah.
But it does feel like that.
Yeah, which, I mean, obviously he's not. And he's out there doing it still every day.
Mm-hmm.
He did have that like little bout of illness, which they do cover in the documentary.
Right.
But he's out there doing it every day. It did feel like a celebration of life. Like, look what Norm has built. Look what he's done. It was just celebrating kind of everybody he brought together. It is pretty amazing, really.
It's pretty cool.
What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I thought it was, super informational just about how he started. I thought it was really cool how Kind of talks from the beginnings with his wife and, you know, how they kind of made this kind of happen together. His daughter is kind of helping out too, but he doesn't foresee it going necessarily to family, which is kind of odd.
Yeah, because he doesn't have anybody that's really... Everybody's doing it for him because they see his passion in it. But
Right.
yeah, there's nobody in his family that he really looks to hand it over to.
Obviously he has a good relationship with Joe Bonamassa, because Bonamassa's probably bought half his inventory.
Yeah.
So it talks about how they would like for Joe to be the successor, but Joe's so busy. I don't see that ever
I
happening.
think it was Norm's wife that says it in the documentary.
Yeah.
That she doesn't necessarily say for sure or anything.
Right. It's just a suggested thing, like who's the type of person, and she said someone like Joe.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like because Mark Agnesi worked there for so long, he would be a great spokesperson for that. Now I don't know. I know he left and he's with Gibson, so I don't know how things ended. I would imagine things. He's in the documentary, so I would think it's pretty amicable.
Yeah, I've seen them like together before in different videos, and whatever the relationship is, it seems to be really good. I don't think he left on bad terms. I think he just got a really good offer from Gibson,
Right.
and moved to Nashville for that.
Yeah, so I feel like he would be a great spokesperson because he worked there for a long time. He's got a recognizable face. He could take over the business. I feel like that wouldn't be a bad idea, but I don't know how everything worked out. I thought it was going to be more about, when I turned it on, I thought they were going to go into more details on like what type of guitars are we looking for. I did think it was cool how they said they have so much in the vaults in the back.
Watching it, seeing those crates that he supposedly has,
Yeah.
and you could see like little pictures of some of the guitars.
It's almost like Indiana Jones.
They looked like mint condition.
Oh,
Some of that stuff, and
pristine.
Tim Pierce is in it talking about like how he grabbed the tuners, and I guess it was one of those buttons, and it just like disintegrates in his hand.
Yeah, turns to sand.
And he's like, "Sorry about that, Norm." And Norm's like, "Oh, it happens all the time."
Yeah.
Those guitars are so interesting to me, but that part kind of made me sad.
Yeah, because no one's playing them.
They will never be seen until he's gone, and then they'll probably do a big blowout. I mean, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, but they could. It happens with a lot of people when they do pass, that they do a big auction and they're like, "This is Norm's private collection, and we're going to auction it off." And he's big on the charity stuff. They talk about that.
I was about to say, I could see him donating it to a museum or something like that. You know what I mean?
It's
I think it would, because he does have a lot of collection pieces that you see in the documentary, which is cool. But it's also kind of sad because no one plays them.
How many of those has been setting in his vaults for 40 years, 50 years?
My thing is, he's got some he totally forgets he has, right?
I think he's very like intelligent. He's very on it with everything. I think he's got a spreadsheet with every single guitar he's probably owned or does own.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean,
you don't have a business like that without being organized. So
yeah, and
I don't know.
I thought it was really interesting. I don't foresee Joe Bonamassa taking that business over.
No, he's too busy with his own thing.
And maybe Joe's the guy that holds on to Norm's stuff when he does pass that stuff from the vault and sets up like a museum. I could see something like that happening.
I could see that too.
But I don't want to be morbid with this subject because the documentary was really cool.
Yeah.
I would have liked to heard a little more, like, as bad as it sounds, it seems like once he got going, like there was no struggles. Like it would have been interesting to find a little more like detailed information on like, man, this one time I totally got ripped off on this guitar because I didn't know this or I didn't know that. Like that's bound to happen. It's going to happen to everybody. But
I would like to see more of his, like, how he knows it's an original. You know what I mean? Like when he was first doing it, because there wasn't a lot of information at the time back then.
Or somebody going through a full appraisal process now.
Yeah.
Like that would have been interesting
That would
too.
be cool.
It was amazing. Go watch it if you haven't watched it. Even if you're not a vintage guitar nerd, it's really interesting. We are definitely vintage guitar nerds.
Yeah.
But also don't discount the fact of, Kiefer Sutherland put this out for him and produced it for him and set it up. And that's awesome. And I really respect Norm. But it's not like he's the only guy that's done this.
I was about to say, George Gruen has been doing this for years too.
George Gruen's been doing this, I think, just as long. He started in the 70s too. I forgot exactly what year it was that he started. And he was kind of like Norm. He was selling out of his car. He was selling out of his house. And then he eventually got a store.
And talk about another encyclopedia. That guy knows everything.
Oh my gosh. He's a genius when it comes to it. I'm not saying more than Norm. I'm just saying it's just different. And
different areas and, different inventory.
Talk about players that came through his shop too. He's had everybody in the world.
Right. I would like to see George do a documentary, but more on the ins and outs of...
I don't think he can.
Why?
Because George is the type of guy, if he's going to do it, he's not doing it 50%. He's doing it 1,000,000%.
That's true.
And the documentary will be 12 hours long.
I think we need a series.
I would like that.
I think he needs his own series and talks about, because he needs like one episode just on Martin guitars, one episode just on
pre-war Martin guitars. And I'm serious. Yeah. Like, he could do it just Banner Gibson acoustics.
I tell you what, though, I'd watch every bit of that.
Me too. I would love it. I think that it's a great documentary. Go out and watch it. But whenever you watch it, don't think like, oh, Norm's the only guy that's ever done this. Like, right around that time, it all started happening. Maybe Norm was the first one to do it. Maybe he wasn't. I'd have to check all those dates again.
I mean, he definitely was the pioneer.
He was one of the pioneers, for sure. But don't discount like your local shops. Some of these shops have been around for 30 years, and they're just as interesting with just as much stuff going on. Mm-hmm. We've got a local vintage shop in the area that, I mean, all the time there's people rolling in and out of there. There's pictures of Billy Gibbons there. There's pictures, I mean, in the last month or two, Billy Joe Armstrong was just in there and bought a Les Paul Jr., and there's a picture of him there with it. And like, go check out your local vintage shops if you've got any, or your closest city, because most likely they've been there a while.
Right.
And yeah, it's interesting.
It's a cool documentary. You should watch it. It kind of gets you in the mode of like, man, I need a vintage piece.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, I watched it and I was like, yeah, I've got a vintage Bassman, but I need a guitar.
Yeah, it started rumbling things in my head. Yeah. So we can talk more about that later.
Okay.
But what's you guys' thoughts on this? Put them down below.
Yep. See ya.
See you next week.